He's one of those famous people no one has ever heard of, especially outside of Alberta. 2 creeks, 2 buildings named for him, a hiking trail, a ridge in the foothills of the Rocky Mountains, a Canada Post stamp. He pioneered irrigation in southern Alberta. He was the fastest, the strongest, the best. If you have heard of him, you're probably thinking right now,
That is John Ware Reclaimed. It follows filmmaker Cheryl Foggo on her quest to uncover the complex story of John Ware, who's a black cowboy who settled in Alberta during the ranching industry's early years. The documentary is part of this year's Toronto Black Film Festival and premieres tonight. Cheryl is joining us from Alberta this morning. Good morning to you. How are you?
Good morning. I'm well, thank you.
Glad to hear it. And I got a chance to watch this yesterday, and I learned a lot from this, and I think all of us can. My first question is, why are we not learning this history in schools?
People ask me that a lot, and I just turn it back and say, I've done my part. I've created the resources. I've asked for, from ministers of education for decades. So that's a question I'll turn right back to Canadians.
Yeah, it is a great question that we need to answer very soon, I would say. As we honor Black History Month as well. We take a look back at our past, we look at our future, we learn from all these stories. As I mentioned, I learned quite a bit. Tell us a little more about John Ware and why you were inclined to research and learn more about him.
Well, I connected to his story because I was a kid growing up in Calgary when the stampede was everything and cowboys and horses. I loved all that, but didn't see myself reflected in that history. So when I discovered the existence of John Ware, of course, it was a hugely unifying factor for my different identities. We all identify, with many different pieces of ourselves that come from a variety of sources. So I was interested in the story for that reason. I was compelled to make this documentary because I felt the story really needed an update from the book that was written in 1960, and also just because I wanted to introduce this beautiful person to more people.
And your update is done by a very different lens than that book was, of course. I remember going and, John Ware isn't the only cowboy. He's not the only cowboy
that's right.
Kind of been missed from history. And I remember, and this is my ignorance because as going back to talking about schooling and education here in this country, I was in Nevada. I was in a small town. And I remember coming out of this little gas bazaar and restaurant. It's like a little dirt area. And these 2 guys rolled up on horses. Now, as a city kid, I was first just like, these guys are on horses. But the guy looked at me, he goes, what, you never seen a black cowboy before? And then I thought about it after. I was like, no, he's right. I hadn't. What is this history that we're missing? Tell us more about some of the others that we are learning about as well.
Well, there were other black cowboys in Western Canada as well. As many as 25% of cowboys across North America were black. It is becoming more well known now. And a lot of people think John Ware was the only black cowboy in Western Canada, but he wasn't, as you can see from some of the names I have included in my film there. It's an amazing history. It's a beautiful history, and I'm so happy that musicians and other young African Americans are bringing this history forward in the U.S. for sure.
And you team up with a lot of the people that you've been teaming up with in live plays and stage depictions of what's been going on in this film as well, in this documentary. And it got emotional for you. Why was it that much more emotional? What was it that hit home during this time?
Oh, I often try to describe my connection to John Ware. And I guess it's just that reverence for the ancestors that I have. And when I say ancestors, I of course mean my own blood ancestors, but also the people like John Ware who paved the way for me. They make space for me. And I carry that pride in them wherever I go. So it does get pretty emotional for me at times.
And you're going to continue this research, as you say in the film, that you're not done. And so what is next?
Well, some of the samples that I have for the DNA exploration are very fragile. I didn't really get to talk about them too much in the film, but I am working with those and with the very rapidly advancing technology around DNA exploration. And of course, the genealogical search carries on based on a clue that John Ware sent to me in the course of the making of the film. So
It's incredible. We have such a rich history here in Canada, and we need to see the good, the bad, and especially this, the incredible. John Ware Reclaimed is part of the Toronto Black Film Festival. All films be streaming online. It starts tonight and available till February 21st. If you want to check it out, torontoblackfilm.com for more info. Cheryl Foggo, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
thank you for having me.
All right, take care. We'll be back with more BT after this.